Hello, Assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And a few random things that keep crossing one's mind in the middle of the night. Obviously, I guess that's the time when our mind goes into this overdrive, all the deepest, darkest thoughts and all the philosophical thoughts, all the reflections, everything. I think, anyway, as it is, it's been a part of my life for as long as I've known that at night before going to sleep, well, nowadays for me it's day and night, but at a time in my life when I actually had a whole routine, before my whole routine was upset, and now I have no routine whatsoever. So there was a time for the longest, at least the longest part of my life, I had a set routine, and at that point in life, the nighttime was where I would go through all the whole day, and then obviously ultimately the whole life. It was a time of self-reflection, a time of revisiting everything that I'd done or said or thought, you know a time on having secondhand embarrassment of my own self. Oh, why did I say that? Why on earth did I even do that? Why would I even say that? Why did I even think that? So it's that time. And this is as long as I remember. But now that I have no routine whatsoever, imagine this is me, this is my mind day and night. But as always, I guess, because of the habit of it all, nighttime is when it's at its worst, or at its deepest, or at its most overdrive. And so random thoughts keep coming, which have no connections whatsoever to each other, but they are not pointless in any case. Some of these are actually thoughts that I did cover, obviously, as I said. Is there anything I haven't covered in all my podcasts these past 5 years? I doubt it, seriously. But I mean, I'll cover a different point of view of whatever, of the similar subject, let's put it this way. Now, for example, when we always talk about humanity, and we say, oh, humanity is about compassion, and it's about this, and it's about that. I think compassion, or reasoning things, or reflecting upon things, or emotions, or forethought, or knowledge, as in at least to a limited knowledge, or understanding of things, learning capacity. We always seem to attribute this to just human beings, and I've always found that a bit weird, because in my observation throughout my life, I think every single living thing. Look, God says every single living thing has a soul, and all those souls are going to come back to me, right? What does that tell you? Every single living thing would have then more or less the same attributes. I think the only thing that we need to understand, the only thing that actually makes human beings, greater or different, or, put on such a high pedestal by God, even compared to other living things, is the ability to create, the ability to create from knowledge, the ability to enhance one's knowledge, and then to use that knowledge to create things, or to devise things, or to develop, to invent, to discover. I mean, I don't know how well I can put it at this point, but it's not about the ability to understand. It's not about the ability to actually have knowledge. No, it's the ability to utilize that knowledge. Okay, yeah, let's put it this way. Because remember when God says to the angels that you don't know what I know, and then he proceeds to show them by asking Adam a few questions, and beaming with pride as Adam answers those questions, and he says, see, so the ability of man to seek knowledge, not just to have that limited knowledge, the ability of man to enhance his knowledge, to seek knowledge from that limited knowledge, to gather more knowledge, to devise and to produce and to implement that knowledge, that that is what makes man above other living things. It's not compassion and it's not understanding and foresight and this and that, because I'll tell you, all these attributes belong to all living things. For example, okay, look at a cat or look at a dog or even look at birds, look at any living organism around you. They have a sense of motherhood, they have a sense of fatherhood, a much better sense than human beings. By the way, let's just face it. Animals have a much bigger, purer sense, much more astute sense of what parenthood is compared to human beings. They know what compassion is. Again, much more acutely aware of compassion as compared to human beings. Have you seen how animals treat babies, human babies even? The fact that animals, and you find to be a surprise, isn't it? People usually are like gasping with surprise that, oh my God, just look at how tender they are with babies, with human babies. Look at their interaction. Yeah, they are living things. They have babies of their own. So their ability to recognize human babies as babies and to put forth their motherly or their tender compassion or their fatherly compassion, it's amazing, isn't it? We find it amazing because we think only humans have the ability. As I said, sorry to say, I think humans don't even have that ability. So we're supposed to have that ability, but we don't. You see that ability in animals, in birds. You see that they immediately communicate with each other. Birds, ants, bees, all animals also communicate. Yeah, that's another thing which I don't know who came up with this idea that, the reason why man is perfection on earth is his ability to communicate. No. All living things communicate. Plants communicate. Have you ever tried talking to a plant? Have you ever seen plants communicating with each other, by the way? Have you seen how your touch, your every word affects any living organism around you? Okay, I'll give you some of my own personal examples, okay? I think I might have mentioned them in some of my very old podcasts, but okay. You put your finger in front of an ant, for example. Just put a finger in front of an ant. Now, normally ants obviously have the sense to run away, get away and all. Now, imagine on one side there is water. On the other side, there's an ant that can potentially drown and die in that water. And you lift it on your finger and you put it away. After that, just notice, after that, every time you'll put your finger in front of any ant, they will come. They will come to your finger and they will allow you to move it away. Okay? Curiosity is another thing that you will find in all living organisms. Their curiosity to find out, does this thing really work? You will notice it in their hesitation, even in an ant. You will notice it hesitate for a few seconds, sometimes a whole minute. They'll just freeze and they'll suss the whole, the whole atmosphere, the whole environment, and then they'll literally put on their thinking cap and wonder and be curious and make an assessment, and then they'll decide whether to climb onto your finger or to look for another route. You will see sometimes that they actually look for another route. That's one thing. Again, allow a butterfly to calmly, just come onto your finger or your hand or your open palm. Let it walk all over your arm. Do not disturb it. It will explore your whole arm until it knows that it is safe with you. In fact, the first time it's not even going to explore your arm. The first time it would be a miracle if a butterfly even decides to settle on your finger. But if you sit there and if you communicate in a silent way, the word vibes are being used a lot nowadays, but the truth is that is actually where the word stems from. Those vibes that we give, the vibes that we get from other people. Like, for example, you're looking somewhere else, but you have that feeling, your whole body suddenly just gives you that feeling that there is somebody behind you. And in fact, you even know if somebody is staring at you from somewhere, isn't it? And you immediately look around and try to find out, who is that person behind me? Who is that person staring at me? And that feeling doesn't go away until you satisfy yourself and find that person out, isn't it? That's vibes. That's the vibes you're getting from another person's presence. That is the vibe that that person is giving off when he's standing there somewhere behind you or when he's staring at you. Similarly, these are the vibes that you give off when you're sitting there calmly in front of any other living organism, and they take in those vibes. And that is one of the ways that they assess the whole situation. And animals actually are very astute, unlike human beings. We just call it a vibe. We don't know how to explain it most of the time. We just don't know the hackles, the way we get goosebumps and everything. And that is actually a very animalistic thing. That is how we, as we say, we are part of the animal kingdom, because these are some of those attributes, those animalistic attributes that we have, those instincts that we have, that other animals have it, but other animals have somehow fine-tuned it to the point where they know where to look, they know what that vibe really means, isn't it? We don't know most of the time what those vibes mean. We have the general idea of the vibes, but to be very astute about them, no, we're not always there, isn't it? There are very few of us who can actually polish their inner consciousness to enough to actually understand each vibe. But normally we just get those vibes, but we're not very astute about it, isn't it? That's why we just call them vibes, and they literally are vibes anyway, so there's nothing wrong in calling them vibes, as in vibrations. It's this sort of a thing that comes from within every living being. Okay. Yeah, believe it or not, plants have vibes too, and plants take your vibes in too. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Plants, animals, birds, insects, everybody, every living thing, they give off vibes, they take in vibes, they're very astute. Human beings, not very astute, but we still get the vibes, right? So, yeah. So, as I said, if you look at a cat, for example, have you noticed how even if a cat doesn't like you touching it, but it knows that you just want to touch it, and it's always very patient? But sometimes you'll find that it suddenly decides to start cleaning itself at the very place that you've touched it. That should tell you something, if anything does. But the fact that it didn't attack you, it didn't say anything, it waited patiently, and then it started cleaning itself. That tells you tenderness, empathy, patience. It shows sort of an inner wisdom that, again, living things have. If you look at a dog, again, the way a dog, even if it sees somebody for the first time, it reads the vibes off of that person. Notice that. And if they get good vibes, then if they feel that a person is a bit scared of them, actually 9 times out of 10, those dogs will not come and bark at you. You usually say that, oh, if you give off the vibes that you're scared, then the animals, when they smell fear, they pounce. No, actually, no. It's weird, okay? It's weird, but actually 9 times out of 10, when animals smell fear out of the other living person in front of them, be it a human being or another animal, and now it depends. If it's a predator, and the other animal is something that it normally would go after, then yes, when it smells fear, it pounces. But man is regarded as a predator too, by the way. And we're not talking about wild animals here. We're talking about domesticated animals, or, domestic animals. When they or those animals who have basically lived amongst humans, and so, yeah, domesticated. When they smell fear in a human being, 9 times out of 10, they actually become very, very cautious in their behavior, in their manners. Again, a person like me who has had dogs pretty much all my life, we've had animals pretty much all our lives, as pets and all. And I've noticed that in every single dog that we have had, especially the female. And most of the time, okay, it's weird. Most of the time, we ended up we've had some of the longest. No, we've had males too. Okay, yeah, we've had a lot more female dogs than male dogs, but we've had dogs nonetheless. Anyway, and I've noticed this. They they read between the lines. And because I was always extra cautious and extra careful, sometimes even a bit scared, because what I didn't like was sudden moves by animals when they're very, they're being very friendly and very playful, but when they suddenly pounce on you, playfully, kind of, those sudden moves kind of used to scare me. And I noticed that because my sister was the opposite. She was the rough person, the rough and tough person. So she would just grab them and dance with them and do whatever and this and that. So what they would do is, all the dogs that we've had, what they would do is, every single one of them I noticed. I mean, and we didn't have all of them together. I'm talking about all the different dogs that we've had throughout our lives. They would always pounce on her and jump around and dance with her and be frantic and everything. They'll be their whole, rough and tough selves with her. But whenever they were with me, they would always be extra, extra, extra gentle, extra careful, as if they're being very, very cautious, and extra, extra careful. So I used to find that very touching amongst them. Similarly, I've seen this pattern repeated by different animals, especially dogs and cats and even birds, when they're around children. They display that. Again, it's as if they automatically realize that, oh, these are children, these are babies. We need to be extra gentle, we need to be extra tender. So you will find that even actually amongst wild animals, when they're around children of other animals that are not under their predatory enclave, they will always be extra, extra careful, extra gentle, extra tender with baby animals of different species. What I'm trying to say is, this is not what makes human beings higher in status than any other living things, okay? In fact, other living things, as I said, other living things, plants included, they are following nature. Human beings are the only animals in this world that are going against nature, and they call it normal. They do a lot of things that are abnormal and they call it normal. They do a lot of things that are unnatural and they call it natural. Whereas animals stick to the natural law, they stick with the divine law. They do not question the divine law, actually. It's not that they don't have the ability. I don't think it's not, no, it's not that. It's just that they know, and so they're not going to question it. They're all following divine laws, they're all following divine nature, and so they have a set path, they're going on it. Notice that human beings are the only ones that have the ability to go against nature to the point where we completely take a 360-degree U-turn, or a roundabout, actually, and 180-degree U-turn or a 360-degree roundabout, in which we completely defy nature, So that's another thing. In other words, all animals have common sense. Human beings lack common sense. Let's put it this way now. So you see, we're not superior to other animals for any of these reasons. In fact, if we compare ourselves to animals when it comes to any of these reasons, they're superior to us. You understand? They don't defy nature. They don't defy divinity. They have a very good sense of relationships. They have a very good sense of their roles in life. They don't try to go against those roles in life. It's very rare for them to do that. They automatically know how to deal with situations and with other animals according to the environment that is provided within. If it is a predatory environment, they'll go accordingly. If it's a friendly environment, they'll go accordingly. Their social networking, in other words, or relationships, are again much more natural and better and more commonsensical than ours. So yeah, I mean, I just think that the amount of patience that the animals exhibit and have exhibited, that is also a testament to the fact that you have now more and more animals that are getting extinct at the hands of human beings. I mean, look at the white rhino, look at you know, the Asian unicorn, look at the giant anteater. I mean, why even are they getting extinct? One is forced to ask. Like, seriously, what are we doing that are making these animals that have lasted a millennia at least, to suddenly get it? The golden tiger is extinct. I mean, seriously, that's the last thing on earth you would expect to get extinct. Seriously, I mean, what is it with us? What is wrong with us that we cannot? I mean, see, that's the thing again. All animals, predatory and otherwise, all sea life, all wildlife, all plant life, let's put it this way, all fauna and flora in this whole kingdom, they literally live in harmony with each other. Everything they do is again it's a natural way of balance. Every single step that they take is again in according to nature, and it benefits the environment, it balances the environment. Even, yes, even killing each other, as you will notice, is only out of necessity and not for the sake of game. Okay, notice that. Again, human beings are the only ones that kill for game, be it animals, be it birds, be it other human beings, be it plants, be it agriculture, be it anything. We are destroying things for the heck of it, for the sake of it, for greed, for selfish desires, for God complexes, for whatever the shit it is that But when animals and plants, when they, when our organisms, when organisms and animals, when they go into predatory mode, it is to balance nature, to balance the environment, to keep the earth right on its axis. In other words, okay, we do the complete opposite. So we are the only animals, again, on this earth that just do not know how to coexist. Anything and everything that we do actually causes another imbalance on earth, So, yeah. Next time when you talk about animals, think about that. In fact, if anything, don't say don't be like animals. You should say be like animals. Take care of your shit. Do not destroy the earth. Do not destroy each other. Follow divine law. Follow natural law. Yeah, act like animals, please. That's what I would always tell people. Please just act like animals, for crying out loud. Because whatever it is that you're attributing to human race, no, it doesn't belong to the human race. It belongs to every fauna and flora in the whole world, except for the human race, where I stand. Yeah. So, and that also kind of now puts me on the second random thought, which is not exactly, again, a random. These two random thoughts are not random thoughts. These two thoughts occur basically every single day and multiple times a day throughout my life, based on my observations and based on the things that are going on around us. And it always comes down to these conclusions, Now, so another one of these is, again, when we talk about pagans and when we talk about, monotheism versus polytheism. And then the polytheists, one of the biggest, one of the biggest statements you can say, or explanations that they give in their defense, is that no, you see, we also believe that there is this one God. We do believe in that one God, that is the highest of the high, and there is no one compared to him, and he begets not, and whatever. But the deities, the other deities that we worship, we consider them his helpers. But you see, that is still shirk. You cannot think that you can get away with it by saying that, oh, wait, what do you think? The Arabs, the polytheist Arabs that were converted to Judaism, to Christianity, and then to Islam, are you thinking that they also didn't know that there was this one entity, there was this one God there, but the others, for example, the Christians, when they talk about Trinity, you think that they don't have a concept that there is one high God, but they keep on talking about Trinity, but that is shirk, that is polytheism. Any place, even the Jews, they think that, oh no, we're still on that one God track. No, you also called Zubair, was it, or was it, yeah, I think it was Zubair, isn't it? You, or Uzair, I think you called him the son of God. So no, again, what is that one entity? That one entity is he begets not, nor was he begotten. Okay, in proper English, not old English. Let's stick to modern English. So he begets not, nor was he begotten. Right? What does it mean? Nobody gave birth to him, and he has fathered no one. So why would the Christians keep on and on, even if in their almost accurate quotations of Jesus, they keep on making him say Father? Jesus would never call God Father in the first place. That in itself is a big question. That's very questionable, because he has always called him God and Lord, never Father. Okay? In fact, he called him Allah, because remember, he spoke Aramaic. So Aramaic and Arabic are two sister languages, in other words. So what did they call God? Allah and Illah. Okay, it's the same thing. Even in Arabic, it's Allah, and then, La ilaha illallah. So Illah is God again. Ya ilahi. Don't we say Ya ilahi even in Arabic? So again, so it's the same in Aramaic. So yeah, Jesus called God Allah. Okay, Moses called God Allah. Every single prophet from Adam all the way to Muhammad, peace be upon him, peace be upon all of them, all the prophets in the world call God Allah. No other name, Allah. Okay, and even the earliest Jews, by the way, because if you look at the Torah, if you look at the undisturbed verses of the Torah, they called God Allah too. Yeah, not Yahweh. I'm sorry, I don't know where the Yahweh thing came from, but no, if you look at their earliest, most ancient script, it was Allah even then, or again Illah, right? So yeah, no, don't give me that, please, where the Hindus and the other religions are like, oh no, but we do believe in one God. It's just that we believe he had no helpers. Why is it that God takes offense at your deities and your helpers? Is because that is what God keeps on telling you, is that he doesn't need helpers. He has angels, and he doesn't even call angels his helpers, even though he has designated each one of them a task. The angel of rain and sprouting of harvest on earth. Then there's the angel who's of the angel of death, and then there are angels who are carrying the throne of Allah, and then there are angels that are constantly praying, and they have nothing else to do but pray to God. And then there are angels who have given who are given other tasks, of like Jibril, Hazrat Jibril, he was given the task of communicating God's word with all the prophets, and even with Hazrat Maryam, Mary, the mother of Jesus. So all the extremely important people that God needed to give a direct message to, he would send Hazrat Jibril to. So each angel is has a task, but none of them are called helpers of God or assistants of God, right? He doesn't need them. He's just made them, he's created them, and then he's given them certain tasks, which again, he can do himself without even lifting a finger. You understand? Because after all, before even creating them, he first created a pen, and then he told the pen to write. He created a book of blank pages. Then he created a pen, and he told the pen, now start writing. And the pen is like, what should I write? And then God's like, okay, start writing this. And he wrote the whole story of this whole world, of how it would begin, how it would end, how many civilizations would come, how many would go. Every single person that existed on this earth has already been written about in that book. And this is before he even created man. You understand? So he first created the whole story, and then he created us, basically. Okay, if I haven't got that wrong. But the point is, here again, God didn't need helpers. He doesn't need helpers. There are no deities there, again, because the same concept is in Buddhism too, although a bit different. But see, the point is that the whole point is that we cannot attribute any other entity to even share, just to even share that space with God. So as I said, what do you think that the Arabs of Makkah, the Quraysh, and everybody, all those pagans of that time, when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, came once again to completely vanquish polytheism from the whole Arabian Peninsula, what do you think was going on there? Even then, the Kaaba had been corrupted. They had decided to place idols in the Kaaba, but to them, the Kaaba was still the same Kaaba that Hazrat Ibrahim, Abraham, that he built. And what was it? The house of God. And so every time they were all polytheists, and yet there it was still their center of pilgrimage. That chain didn't break, isn't it? It's amazing, right? That chain where this was known as the house of God, and that people had to go for a yearly pilgrimage around the house of God, it never changed. They became pagans, but that ritual never changed. Again, why? If they would justify it, they would say, listen, we know that there is that one God high above there. These idols, these are all his deities. These are all deities that are going to help us get what our wishes and our wants by he's going to listen to them, and it's at their behest that we're going to get anything. Some might justify it that way, others would justify it this way, that, oh, these are all his assistants and helpers, like the Hindus say. Some would say that, oh, these are those who, like the Greeks, like the Greeks made whole families and families of gods and goddesses, and made stories out of them. So, and every single one of them say, oh, we know that there is that one God right on top. But see, that is still polytheism. Because the whole idea behind monotheism is there is only one God. He has no helpers, no deities, no assistants, no children, no parents, no siblings. He is all one and unique. There is no one like him. There will be no one like him. Nobody can even share 1/10 of his powers. Nobody can share even 1/100th of his space or existence. You understand? So all these attributes that pagans keep giving to these deities, or angels, like, why are you worshipping angels? Oh, because they're the helpers of Allah. They're not. Christians, I'm talking here to the Christians and the Jews, especially the Christians. No, the angels are not helpers of God. They're not. They're not going to make him listen to your wishes. Saints, people who are dead and gone. Even prophets, once they're dead, they're gone. You do realize that. We cannot even worship prophets, and we cannot even ask God that, oh God, for the sake of the prophet will somehow make God listen to our prayers, so let's just go and ask them. No, they're dead and gone. Everybody's dead and gone. Okay, all those who are dead, they're dead and gone, and that's it. Their link with us is finished. The link will only be reestablished when we go back up there, and we have to face our demons, and we have to answer questions, and we have to be held accountable for every single thought, every single deed, every single thing that we've done and said and committed or not committed to, or whatever, every single thing, worth a grain of sand. God says he will hold us accountable to even something as small as a grain of sand. And so there we are. So, yeah, please don't try to justify. I'm sorry, but I'm just trying to explain that justification, if you think it's helping you, it's not, because that's the whole point. That is what God takes offense in. That is why it is called shirk. It is shirk. You are still attributing somebody to God's, you're making God share his attributes. with your deities one way or the other, even if you're calling them helpers of God or assistants of God and all. There is no misconception. You think that we have a misconception against the Hindus? No, many of us who have lived with Hindus or who know Hindus or who have Hindu friends, we already know that they do not consider their deities as gods, but they think of them as helpers of God. But remember, that is still shirk. It is still polytheism, because you're still worshipping those deities and hoping that by worshipping them you will get what you want, even if you think that it means that they are going to go and make God give you what you want, but you're going through them to God. That is shirk, because you cannot go through anybody, not through a prophet, not through an angel, not through a deity, not through a saint. You can't go through anybody, you see. You have to go directly to God and ask for whatever it is that you want. Otherwise, it is shirk. That is the whole concept here of monotheism. That is why Christians and Jews failed as monotheists. That is why Islam had to come all over again. That is why Hazrat Muhammad, peace be upon him, had to come. It was Jesus' own words, if you remember, where he said that, he will come and he will speak the truth. He will vindicate me. He will vindicate me. What does that mean? It means he's going to assert that I am a prophet of God. He is going to, bring back my honor. He is going to not allow my name to be tainted. He is going to remind the whole world, and he's going to be evidence and proof that I am a prophet of God, and he will be the last. Every single prophet before that talked about Hazrat Muhammad, peace be upon him, that there will be that last prophet. And if you're amongst those people, if you exist at the time when he comes, you must accept him. Even Hazrat Musa said that to the Jews. And the Jews were actually very happy when they thought, oh, the last prophet is going to be amongst us. They didn't realize that the last prophet was going to be amongst their cousins, the Arabs. And that is what actually pissed them off. I mean, that is the history, actually, in case you don't know. But that is the history that Muslims also know, and Jews know. At least proper Jews, they should know, because Muslims know this. The whole reason why Jews went against the Prophet, peace be upon him, and why they are against the Muslims is because they are pissed off at God that, oh, we were supposed to be your favorite nation, and then you promised us that the last prophet was going to be amongst us, and yet you gave the last prophet to these cousins who we think that we're superior to, and they're inferior from us, and how dare you? Like, literally, they're challenging God that how dare you not give the last prophet to us? That is the whole fight. And that is why the Jews are actually challenging God till date. And that is why the idiots are constantly, working for the devil. In other words, they're literally doing what the devil did. The devil challenged God and said, okay, but at least the devil had the courtesy to ask God for permission, that please allow me to challenge you and to prove to you that these human beings were really not worth it, and they will end up following me and not you, and allow me to do this. Give me this opportunity to prove myself right, that these human beings are inferior and they're not even worth it, and I will break them away from you. And God is like, yeah, okay, by all means, go ahead. But then remember, at the end, you're going to land in hell forever, and all your followers too. So keep on doing what you're doing best, So these Jews, the idiots, they didn't even have the courtesy to ask permission. They were like, oh, okay, okay, how dare you? How dare you not give us the last prophet? I mean, this is the height of, I think God should never have made them his favorite nation, because all it did was it made them psychotic. And now they're having this mental breakdown that is going from generation to generation it's literally coming from generation after generation, and it's never ending, seriously, until they're all completely destroyed by God himself. But I mean, there we are, I mean, they have literally broken down. They are mentally retarded, okay? They are insane as a nation. They lost their marbles when they found out that the last prophet was going to be from the Arabs, their Arab cousins. Imagine that this is the root cause of the whole fitna that's going on in this world. Imagine. This is how weird ass human beings are, is what I'm saying. This is literally how weird ass we are. And then you understand why the angels, they had just one question from God when he said, "Oh, I'm going to make human beings." And they were like, why? Why are you going to make these people who are just going to create chaos and fitna in this world? That's all they're going to amount to. Why are you making them? Well, obviously because God wanted chaos and fitna in this world. I mean, he had a story. He wrote a whole book. He wanted it played out. It's like a big freaking movie. We're all playing our roles. And then again, if we go down that path, we're going to start arguing that, okay, then why do we have to pay for it? It's already written. We are already just playing the roles that we've been assigned, and we don't have the choice. We have an illusion of choice, but we don't actually have the choice. So why are we going to be punished for it all? Good question. We're going to be punished for it all because in that choice we have other choices, and it depends on what choice we choose amongst those choices. Let that sink in. But yes, I do understand. I mean, that is a question that, despite knowing it all, we are bound to ask. Because again, that is actually one of the attributes that makes human beings different from other living beings. As I said, other living beings do not question divinity. But we were given the ability by God to question. You understand? Yeah. So yeah, these are two things that I always think about, and I can go into more depths every time, but why even bother? We need to all start thinking on our own. Like, for example, take whatever you may from whatever I've said, and let's see what conclusions you all reach to. Everybody's going to have a unique conclusion at the end of the day, despite whatever I say, right? So yeah, but no, I mean, I need to make this clear about polytheism and the definition of polytheism. So all the polytheists who try to explain that, no, we also believe in one ultimate God. Yes, we know. There is no misconception there. You think there's a misconception. There's no we know that everyone believes in that one ultimate God. But the point is that God has said that we are not allowed to take up partners with him, big or small. Anybody or anything that we attribute to him by saying that they share some of his powers, maybe, or they share a part of his a part of his authority, or they are assisting him, or they're helping him, or through them we can get to him, any and all of that is shirk, and that is polytheism. So hope I made that clear. I was going to say I hope I made that clear, because somehow the recording paused in between due to an interruption. Well, this is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.